Well, hey guys, welcome back. We're on the road again for just a little bit of a reflection video to talk about what started me into the hobby, what started my interest into trains. Now, everybody has a different story. Usually it roots in childhood, and mine's no different. We're here in Hagerstown, Indiana. I'll turn this around. Now, Hagerstown, Indiana is the home of my grandmother on my mother's side. And in the late 80s, early 90s, there was a train wreck right on this stretch of line, which is a Norfolk Southern line. I believe, I'll double check with my cousin. But there was a train wreck, and that was one of the things that really impacted my interest in trains. And later today, we'll go to another area where, through my grandmother on my mother's side, her father, which would be my great-grandfather, really got us into trains, me and my cousin both, by taking us down to the railroad tracks by his home in Richmond, Indiana. So I just wanted to point out this kind of boring stretch of railroad, but when I was a child, I remember coming to this area, the specific area, and there were just railroad cars strung all throughout the area. We're talking about completely down from this end all the way through here. Some of them had fallen on shrubbery and trees. Some of them were just strewn throughout the whole area. And the whole train, I think it took the curve too quick or something, but there were cars laying several feet away from the track there. So like I said, that's one of two things that really piqued my interest in trains. We'll go look at the second next. So this is the IGA and restaurant I used to go to as a kid here in Hagerstown, Indiana. And let me tell you, nothing's changed. The restaurant closed down, but a couple of years ago, it was still open and the exact same, even using the same salad bowls. The grocery store hasn't changed at all. It doesn't even look like the floors changed from 30 years ago. So just kind of interesting how small towns don't change at all. There's some Amish buggies, which you see commonly in this area of the country. So when we really talk about origins and how I got into railroading, not the model railroading aspect, but the railroading aspect, it is simply this alley leads to a guardrailed area. There used to be a little path that my great-grandfather, me, and my cousin would go down to the Norfolk Southern lines and check out the area of track and just watch trains go by. And we could hear them from his house, which was right here, and we could just walk down there and see it. So this alley ended down here, and we would cut off this path and go down to the railroad tracks, which I don't believe exists anymore because nobody cares, but I think it was right through here or back through there that we would cut down to the railroad tracks and check out Norfolk Southern action in the late 80s, early 90s. So it's all overgrown now, but as we go down the parallel alley with the tracks, it clears up. There you see Norfolk Southern line here in Richmond, Indiana. And just a little note, this is the same railroad that ran through the area where there's the derailment that occurred that I was talking about earlier in the video. So when we talk about origins, another thing that got me in more model railroading was this area right here used to have a little, what do you call it? Miniature train companies. 12G railroad. So you could ride on it. It was a gas engine, and then you could see trains across here occasionally too. Now trains would actually stop and come and get food at this McDonald's right here, and that's where we would eat. And then there's that shed the train actually went through at some point. I think more of this was grass area than what's in the parking lot now. And they've got like a little McDonald's, I don't know what the heck, shed over here too. But that this shed here, the train would actually pass through, and it was kind of cool. It was like a wooden shed, and kids would have fun riding around in circles after eating McDonald's out here at some of these, possibly even original from the time.
This used to be like a whole garden area.
Yeah, this whole parking lot was a garden area, but those chairs over there These little picnic tables were original at the time, I believe. So you can really have a good time out here as a kid, and that got me into trains as well. We are in Richmond, Indiana, in this old historical building, as you can see. And over here is the Richmond Area Railroad Society. They've got a couple different schemes, or a couple different gauges of railroad. They're not operating right now, but beautiful, beautiful factory, or furniture store, I should say. With there's actually a ride-on train back here. And then there's furniture actually throughout, which I can show a little bit of that, but there's even a vehicle up here back in the back corner. But they've got HO, and then they've got some O scale on display, and then they talk about all the different scales. Kind of reminds me of the Omaha, or the Council Bluffs Club, where they're really just trying to promote the hobby. And there's all sorts of G gauge on the bottom, including the Freedom train. And then you've got O scale up top here on this layout. This layout's pretty big. It looks like they might operate it from the center, or there's a shed in the center here. But they painted the backdrop like a winter backdrop. Got Freedom train in G scale, which is kind of making me jealous because I'm starting to get in G scale. You have a Lego, or not a Lego, an O scale McDonald's that looked like Lego for a second. So if you're ever in Richmond, Indiana, you can stop by and see this layout. It's hidden on the 3rd floor of the Richmond Furniture Gallery, and right there in Richmond, Indiana. So because of all the virus stuff, people aren't able to, kids aren't able to ride the train, but as you can see, got a ride-along train, a permanent Christmas display up here. And I'll just give you kind of a peek of the furniture area, this is the 3rd floor. There's 2 other floors of furniture. I'm surprised for a town this size that it has such a nice furniture store, but some of the roof areas of the furniture store are really cool. You see the jazz on the background. Richmond was the home of jazz music. A lot of legends recorded here, like Louis Armstrong and things like that. Oh, Pogie Carmichael, yeah. So lots of jazz history for Richmond, Indiana as well. But just kind of show you around a little bit, but it's really neat. And the other floors are actually really neat in terms of architecturally, because they've restored, this building, this original brick. There's even original floors in some areas. Sorry, I was trying to get the haze off my camera here. But there's original floors in some areas. This is all carpeted over, but there's hardwood floors. So if you're kind of an architectural nut, you get really cool things like these original doors here, rolling doors and brick. It's the original one here. You can see the floors, so pretty cool.